What up, fellas?
What's going on, everyone?
Here we are. Look at us. What are we doing?
Another episode.
We're all in different places.
Whoa. I know, this is kind of weird, isn't it? It's like usually at least two of us are together. Yeah. So, but today we're not.
I won't burden folks with why I'm not there, but just know that I'm still here. So, cheers.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Sir. How's everyone's weekend? How was it? Everything was good?
Well, you know, your weekend and mine was intermingled, and had a great time, obviously, in doing so. Had a fun time celebrating our fellow MPI member Katie's wedding, so that was a lot of fun.
Super fun. Great time.
We surprised her with some cold sparks, which is always fun. Frank, we went absolutely nuts with the cold sparks at the wedding. So
it was bananas. I mean, they were going off like pretty much every song, so it's gonna make for great video content for sure. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun.
And by every song, not necessarily sarcastically every song, but yeah, they were pretty tight.
It was tight. Yeah.
One of these days I'll invest in cold sparks when some of the venues come around locally. Not too many venues around here are cool with it yet.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, some people are really cool about it. Some people are absolutely against it. So I just try to tell the people that I work with, like, hey, I need you to get permission from the venue before we do this. Because, you know, if you pay for them and then I show up and then the venue has an issue with it, there's nothing I can do about that at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, this weekend, I mean, totally not cold sparks, right? But the couple wanted like little handheld confetti cannons shot off at the end, like right when the beat dropped on their last dance. Yeah. And the venue was just like, and I put it to them in the email. I said, hey, make sure, communication is key in this industry. Make sure you check with the venue. We got there. They handed them to me. I was like, sweet, we're down. Little bit beforehand, I was like, do you ever check? Oh, I didn't ask them, but I was just like, hey, you guys know about the confetti cannons? They were just like, nope, we have no clue.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
And you're not going to shoot them off. I was like, okay. Awesome. I said, that's your conversation to have, not mine.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's tough. That's tough. Yeah. I mean, but it's another testament to communication and how, important it is to have communication amongst everybody. And not assume things, not assume everything's going to be okay, or not assume everybody's going to be okay with whatever it is that's going on.
For sure. 100%.
Yep. Communication is key.
Just want to quickly welcome everybody watching. We thank you all for watching as always. We encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wedding Business Growth. You can catch all of our old videos, previous videos, previous interviews, previous guests, et cetera, just a plethora. Look at me using big words. Just a plethora of educational opportunities there for everybody. And so if you haven't done so yet, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also join the Facebook group. Love to have you guys a part of the Facebook group if you're not already there. Same thing, just like YouTube, jump on YouTube and search Wedding Business Growth. Same thing for Facebook. Jump on Facebook, search Wedding Business Growth. And, like the page, join the group, join the conversation. Let us know how we can help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Facebook group is awesome for kind of that kind of engagement too. So definitely join in. We're always in there. So
yeah. No doubt about it. Anybody watching, feel free to check in. Let us know where you're watching from. You know how we always like to give shout outs to our peeps out there supporting the podcast and supporting the show. And we have an exciting guest tonight, fellas. We talk a lot about business, and I think sometimes it's good for us to talk about, you've heard me say in my mind, the two most important pieces of equipment anybody can have is their head and their heart. And sometimes that's more of a personal thing, you know what I mean? And so I think health is something that's vitally important in our industry. And I think the fact that we have, we've kind of had a period of time where we've been kind of lulled. Not everybody's been working. Now we're moving back into working again, and we're getting busier. And people are going to start kind of you're going to go, as Drake would say, 0 to 100 real quick, right? And it's important that your health is there, just like the business side of things. The health side of things need to be there as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that kind of stuff today, and with our guest. I'm excited, and I know that that we had to kind of, speaking of, we actually had to kind of reschedule this interview because our guest, she was dealing with some of those challenges, and so it's real life stuff that happens. And so I think it's great that we can be transparent, and we can be kind of open to talk about things when it comes to more than just business stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's ironic we're talking about health tonight as I sit here battling a sore throat.
Drinking your what do they call those things at Starbucks? What are they, medicine bombs or something like that?
I've got my chamomile tea with honey and my Halls, so I'm good. I know.
Frank, you got any ailments over there, man?
Yeah, I mean, I have this nice cup of water in my Mets glass because I have the Mets-itis, just kind of like you have the Red Sox-itis.
Yeah, I do. And it was a good weekend for the Red Sox, by the way. For those that are paying attention to baseball, it was a good weekend for the Red Sox. How was it for the Mets? I don't even know. I meant to pay attention to that so I could razz you if I needed to.
Yeah, no, we're looking good. First in the division, biggest lead in all of baseball, and only the best pitcher in the not even just the world, in the universe, throwing BBs.
Well, yeah, and then when you get the other guy back that looks like what does it look like, Thor or whatever? We get him back, man. Y'all be in good shape. So this is all going to lead up to a fun trip for us then in September when we all converge on the city of Boston together to watch the Mets and the Red Sox play against each other live.
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So let's hope between now and September both teams are doing as well as they're doing now, right? Because otherwise, if it gets that far and it's not, then that might not be as fun, right?
Well, I can assure you the Mets will be. So if anybody doesn't live up to that, it'll be on your end.
Two things. I like your confidence and I like your shirt. Very well said. All right. All right, let's dive into this thing. All right, I'm going to do my best to read this this biography, this information about our guest so that we can set the tone. So, Erica Christine, a certified wedding and event planner, CWEP, the owner and senior event planner at Elite Eventz, LLC, is a creative visionary to no end. Attention to detail, fabulous organization skills, impeccable taste, and a hands-on approach is the formula she uses to continually create memorable events that last a lifetime. Erica has an MBA with a concentration in entrepreneurship from the Jesse H. Jones School of Business at Texas Southern University. However, she holds her undergraduate alma mater at Prairie View AM University, near and dear to her heart. She began her career when she turned her passion into a business in 2009 when opening the doors of the now award-winning luxury event planning firm, which is nestled in the Garden Oaks Heights area of Houston, Texas. Since then, she has taught wedding planners certification program at a local community college and has been featured in several local and national publications and platforms. She is well-versed in various areas of event planning industries such as design, destination, multicultural, and Western weddings, lavishly luxury events. I love that. Large-scale social and celebrity events, as well as corporate conferences and galas, all the while building powerful and trusted relationships with a variety of professional vendors within the Houston events industry and beyond. Her clientele includes entrepreneurs, socialites, corporate executives, politicians, government, affiliate organizations, mega churches, international brands, and corporations and professional athletes. Upon her 10 years in business, she has decided to expand the scope of her business by adding an event planner's course. I love to hear about this. Interior design and travel planning components to Elite Collective portfolio. For years, she has turned her blank canvas into work of arts and plans to do the same with the interior design world. She's added travel to the equation for pure passion. Destination weddings have increased in the past few years, and she has decided to not limit herself and her expertise, excuse me, I just totally messed it up. Let's try that again. In the past few years, she has decided to not limit her expertise of experienced travel planning versus becoming a traditional travel agent to weddings, but opening them up for others. There we go. Much easier for me to say the second time around. In her spare time, she enjoys traveling, shopping, singing, dancing, cooking, and hanging out with friends and family. I love that. Such a great thing. So without further ado, let's bring our guest to join us on the show, Miss Erica Christine. Erica, how are you?
Hi, guys. Can you see me?
Yes.
We can see you and we can hear you. How are you?
Yes. All right. I am good. Just so happy that I got the camera to work.
Yeah.
So
I know
thank you so much for having me.
That's the funny thing. Sometimes all the behind the scenes stuff that we have to go through to make sure that we sound good and look good. I know that was a little bit of challenging, and I commend you for sticking to it and being able to overcome those challenges. Yes. So great job on that.
30 minutes later, 4 devices later, we got it done.
We've all been there. We've all experienced that.
So hopefully the audio and everything is okay in here. This is actually a closet that I don't use, that I have a whole office set up, a second office set up in where I keep all my ugly stuff where I actually do work at. So hopefully audio is okay throughout the duration of our call.
No problem. No, we are just excited and happy to have you today. So our conversation today, talking about chronic illness and being a creative in the industry. Give us a little background, maybe for starters, on that, and then we can kind of set the tone for the conversation with that.
Yeah, for sure. So, me personally, I started my business in 2009, and at 11 months in, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. A very severe case of Crohn's disease, which is a chronic illness. And so essentially what they say is, they say chronic illnesses that, like, there may or may not be a cure. You can, but you are expected to live with it. You just have to kind of go through different courses of treatment, so on and so forth. Versus a terminal illness would be something where they're saying, hey, this disease is terminal, and they may project that, like, you might not live. So basically, with a chronic illness, Crohn's disease falls underneath that. It's an autoimmune disease where, in layman's term, my intestines, my large and small intestines, is affected whenever I eat or drink anything. My body thinks that it's trying to harm me. It thinks that my saliva is trying to harm me. It thinks that water is trying to harm me. It thinks that food, literally anything that would have to go through the digestive tract, is trying to harm me. And that is, for my case, it was literally from my esophagus all the way down from to my large and small colon, intestines, and then my ileum. So it's literally from start to finish of processing and digesting your food or beverage, things that you consume. So with that being said, I think I was amping up for my first year anniversary party, and I mean, just felt extremely, extremely ill. Whenever you are flared up, your body, for Crohn's disease, whenever you're flared up, your body actually thinks like, hey, this is bad for me, so let me get it out. And by get it out, it's a purge. And by purge, there's no pretty way to say it at all whatsoever. By purge, it's literally vomiting and diarrhea to the extreme. And so when I say the extreme, it's actually, let's see, we'll say yesterday I went to the restroom 32 times and I stopped counting after 32. And so it becomes a point where you get extremely dehydrated. Your other organs start to malfunction and trip over because you're not keeping nutrients in. You're using the restroom and putting out way more than what you actually are intaking. So it can get very, very hard. With Crohn's disease, you get extremely, extremely fatigued. You get ill just because you don't have any energy, you don't have nutrients in you. You're using the restroom, like I said, upwards of anywhere from 15 times, and this is diarrhea, 15 times to the highest that I've counted on a tally mark. When it gets really bad, to tell the doctor, I'll do like a tally, tally mark board, and just every time I go, just kind of cross it off. And the highest that I've went to that I've counted was 56 times in a 24-hour time span. So, and so when it gets like that, it just becomes a point of literally just, well, for me, I eat and I drink so that way I don't have to go to the hospital. And so that way it's not too bad until either my next treatment comes up or until I'm able to take my medicine again. It just depends on what was the trigger. What's the flare? Right now, I'm like 5 days past due for an infusion. So that's what the issue is right now. So there's not, it's not that I ate something wrong, or it's not that I'm stressed out because of a crazy couple or anything like that, or family drama or anything that would be a stressor. It's literally that it's time for my infusion. So the treatment plan for that is every 4 weeks for me, I get an IV infusion. And it's basically like the minor chemo that they give me. And that kind of settles down my stomach. It creates a coating throughout the entire lining of my stomach. So that way I'm able to eat and drink and function and do events.
Gotcha.
So that's the disease in a nutshell for me. It's something that you would call an invisible disease. And we call it invisible diseases because if you look at me, if I were not to tell you that I had this disease, or that I had a chronic illness, you would not know. And so it's kind of ironic funny, because I talk to a lot of people in the industry and they're always, either sliding in my DMs or just thanking me and telling me, thank you for being so open and transparent about your journey. And then they'll tell me about something that they're dealing with that is another chronicness or another invisible illness, whether it be lupus or whether it be, mental health issues or whatever it is. It might not be the exact same thing that I have, but me being open and vulnerable enough to share my journey and in such as a matter of fact way, you're going to take it or you're going to leave it. I think other people feel comfortable in knowing that like their truth is okay, and it's okay to be in your truth and still be excellent and still produce amazing and excellent events.
I love that so much. Nick, I think you might remember, didn't David Garrard have Crohn's disease?
Yeah, he did.
I thought so. He's former quarterback for the Jaguars here in Florida.
Yes.
Yes. I remember him saying that he said he had Crohn's disease and was really influential in that community and spreading the awareness of that.
Yeah, and coming from me, I mean, I have celiac disease, so I know exactly. I mean, not exactly, but I mean, I understand like autoimmune disorders. Like, yeah, everyone thinks you're just fine. It's like, oh yeah, no, I have like autoimmune disorders, but no, I totally understand what you're saying. But Crohn's disease, it's tough. I can imagine it's really, really difficult. I mean, celiac is like, oh, you eat gluten, and it's like, but Crohn's disease is really, really difficult. So.
Yeah, that's literally it. Like, I mean, little simple things like going to AWP meetings or NACE, ILEA meetings, anything like that. And, they have food and they like want to give you like a steak and like mashed potatoes and all of this stuff that has like gluten in it and like beef and stuff that you can't digest. And you're like, yeah, guys, so remember that form I submitted and gave to y'all and told y'all that, like, if I eat this stuff, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I was not playing about that. Like, it's really going to happen. So, we either going to fix this, what are we doing? So, it's true, definitely. I have a friend with celiac disease and that's an AWP with me. So, we're sitting there looking at each other hungry throughout meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something definitely. It's definitely something within our industry that more wedding professionals, not just caterers, but just more wedding professionals in general, should be aware of, because you know, there's no reason why anybody should be sitting there hungry. There's no reason why, you know, these types of things shouldn't be overlooked. And it's, you know, I mean, it's kind of like shallow to just be like, oh yeah, whatever, they can just have something. But no, like it's possible to make it a good situation for everybody if we're just more aware of it and more understanding of why the necessity is there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's just a matter of understanding for sure, and just knowledge of like what it really is. Like, oh, so, I mean, people, it's like, oh, you have celiac disease, like you can eat gluten, like it's fine. It's like, yeah, I mean, I can, but I'm really hurting myself when I do that. Like,
You're gonna pay for that later.
and you pay for it. Yeah, you saw it's terrible. So
Tell us a little bit about some of the, you know, like some of the ways that you've been able to kind of overcome some of this, Erica, as far as like at events. I mean, I can imagine the frustration probably alone that it has to sometimes present when you're at an event and your body's not cooperating with you. And it's like, I mean, is it kind of put you in a position where you almost have to have an assistant all the time? Or like, what are some of the ways that you've found to be able to combat it?
Yes, definitely. So I've got my notes with me, but definitely, I pretty much, so I'm good. And I would even say I'm great, but I know my strength and I know that I need my team. My team is what makes me great. And I don't even know if that's because I have Crohn's disease. I just think that's just because I need my team. Like literally they catch me when I'm falling or whatever. So yeah, my team makes me great. So yes, I definitely have to have an assistant. I have to have someone there on site. Earlier on, I think one of the things that I did was I decided to almost create my company in the sense of like, what happens if you're not there, right? What do you do? What happens if you're not able to come to an event or if you're not able to do something? And so that was kind of like my SOP. And for those who don't have one yet, I strongly suggest that you work on one. It's your standard operating procedures manual. My SOP is like the holy grail, right? And so in that, it basically made it so dummy proof, so easy to where I literally could be in the hospital bed. And this really happened. Where I'm like, oh, on social media, it's a great day in the office today. Us Elite dolls are doing such an amazing job, yada, yada. And then meanwhile, I'm telling like one of the dolls, that's on my team, but I'm telling one of the dolls basically, hey, I need you to go into the office, do this, click on that, and you'll see, open up the SOP, and it'll run you through everything you need to do X, Y, and Z. Or to send out the itinerary, or to send out, I don't know, whatever things that we need to happen. And so that SOP made it easy for me to begin to work smarter and not harder. And it made it, I built this system to where it was like my company kind of ran like a machine. So that way, if I'm not there, then it's still able to move. Like the event is still able to happen without me. Me coming is honestly just like for decoration and for branding sake and for the namesake of like, oh, I had Erica Christine, blah, blah, blah. But as far as the actual, heavy lifting, my girls, we have 2 positions on the day of as far as assistants go, A1, A2. A1 always has this set of vendors. They always handle this part of the load in. This is like, it's systematic, right? These are their responsibilities. A2 always handles these vendors. They always do this, yada, yada, yada. And then we just kind of custom tailor things that are specific to each couple. And so that just makes it so easy. So essentially, I'm really just that person that shows up and is pulled for questions and random things that happen throughout the day. But my team is actually the ones that are like moving around, dealing with the vendors, set up, load in, tear down, all of that good stuff, and making sure everything flows. My team also, things like as a planner, I no longer do the rehearsals. So and you could look at that from a business side as well too, or business perspective of opportunity cost, but you could like book a whole entire event or another wedding versus sitting rehearsal for an hour. For me, I don't do rehearsals. One, for that reason, but two, it is because of me having a chronic illness. I like to make sure that I am using my time wisely. And the night before a wedding, listening to people talk and doing a rehearsal is just not that important to me. When I can train my dolls to be just as good as me, if not better, at facilitating and directing a rehearsal, and they can do that for me, and I can just pay them to run that rehearsal. So then that is one less thing that I have to do, and that goes into things even like cake tastings. I don't need to go to a cake tasting. The clients know whether they like lemon cake or strawberry cake. You take the cake, you pick it, you taste it, you pick it out, get your design, and move on, right? So things of, to me, what I consider small scale tasks, I had to learn how to give those out and delegate those out to the people on my team. And I had to learn to trust my team as well too, and understand that if you train people well enough, they will be capable and able to handle whatever it is that you're giving them. So I think that was one of, the biggest things for me. I have so many things in place as far as safeguards or boundaries that I've created. So for one, I have two cell phones. I have one that's my personal cell phone. Literally no one in the event industry in any state or any country has that number. No one. Literally no one. And even people that I went to college with and all of that, they don't even have that number. Why? Because I don't want them to think they're doing me a favor and accidentally give my number out as a referral. And my private phone number is now on public display, right? And in public information. So that was one of the safeguards. Yeah, like it just makes sense. Like I can literally turn this phone off and walk away from it and still be able to communicate with my immediate family, let them know how I'm doing with my health, whatever it is, and be fine. And so that was probably one of the biggest things. Emails, same deal with that. I have separate emails. I don't mix emails. I don't mix social media. If I accept clients on my social media, what is considered to be my personal social media Facebook account, I set I have an expectations meeting and onboarding, and I go through all of that with them, because it can become a very fine line between the event planner and people thinking that you're their personal assistant. Mm-hmm. And so I let them know, like, I'm not trying to be in any bridesmaids or groomsmaid groups, space groups with your friends. I'm not friends with your friends. And when I get on social media, just like you, I'm getting on social media to just chuckle, laugh, look at memes, ha ha ha. And when I want to get on social media to work, I log in under Elite Eventz and work. But under Erica Christine, I'm coming with the foolery and fun times and laughs.
I love that. Let me ask you, Erica, when you first started, did you start with a team or did you start on your own?
I started with the team, yes.
Okay. So I love that kind of like that team approach that you had, and that's why I was wondering if it was like from the inception or whether it was something that you evolved into, because I think a lot of times people in our industry don't necessarily start with a team, and so they build their business so much on being them, like they are their business, and I think there's a lot to be learned from that, to where I'm not saying that I'm condoning like misleading your clients, but I think it's okay to have this team mindset from the beginning, so that your client and your referral base doesn't become so dependent on it just being you personally, because it totally goes against scaling and growing your business.
Yeah. So David, that is actually, I had that in my notes somewhere. But literally that in the beginning, when I only had, it was like my cousin and my sorority sister, and I couldn't even afford to pay them, but I would just like pay them like food, like, I don't know, let's go out for drinks after or something, or the next day. Before I could really pay people, it was just my sorority sister and my cousin working for me. Literally, I can't even remember what magazine I read it in or where I read it, but it was like, you need to speak in existence the growth that you want to see for your company. So, and act that way. So literally when people are like emailing me, I would, and I still do this. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me get this over to our production manager and she'll get back with you really soon. Her name is Betty. And listen, there's no Betty on my team, but they don't need to know that. Like, they don't need to know that. So yeah. I'm projecting that we're bigger than we are. I'm making this illusion that like we're this way bigger team than what we are. Even when I ask clients to write reviews, I said, if you don't mind, please talk about the actual team in your review, not just Erica. Oh my goodness, Erica. It all plays into the growth. If you want to work on your business and not in your business, especially if you have a chronic illness, it is very imperative that you think in that mindset of like this team and this bigger team. And even if you've got to fake it until you actually get to that point, like I said, I'd be like, oh yeah, let me talk to our social media girl. She'll do it. And at one point I did have a social media girl, and then I got real picky about what I wanted on there. But you have to make yourself bigger than what. So when inquiries come in, they no longer say, oh, I want to work with Erica, or I'm looking to work with Erica. They're like, oh, I'm looking for a planner on your team. And so now it takes away that stress of like, I have to take that event, and now I can go ahead and just push that event forward to Amy or Ashley on the team, and then we're fine. So you don't want to get stuck to where everything falls on you, for sure.
Well, I think it's important to continue to nurture and grow that team as well. I know that a lot of times people that are kind of building teams, especially in our industry, sometimes I think people get worried about training their competition, and you hear all these different things. And I'll never forget the saying I heard when it was along the lines of, I'm training my competition. What if they leave? And the person responds, but what if they don't leave? Don't you want them to be the best that they can be if they don't leave? And that's such a powerful thought process to think about. I think sometimes some of the challenge, and I think this is great to ask you about this because of being a planner. I know sometimes some of the challenges that I face, and I hear a lot of people say to me the same thing, is that for example, a planning company might be comfortable with me as the owner of the company because I'm the owner of the company, but then they feel like they're getting second best or something like that if I'm not the person that does the event, if it has to be somebody from my staff. Is there a better way of handling that, like a way of success that you've found that, or is there a how do you look at that from the standpoint of maybe some of the other wedding professionals that you're working with who have a team as well? Or is it just one of those things where it's just kind of like, I have a comfortability level with this individual person, so this is why I'd really prefer to work with them versus somebody from their team?
So I think because I know what that struggle can be like, I try to understand my vendors or my friends that are vendors in the industry, understand that they too are trying to grow. And so, for instance, here we have a larger DJ production company. We have a few actually, production company. And so I actually not only have to make it a point for myself, and then also to train then Amy and Ashley on my team, the associate planners, that when they are reaching out to these companies to not specifically ask for the owner, but to just ask who they have. If it is a certain tier or level of event, and they just want the owner for namesake, for branding sake of the event, or if it's just a high caliber or high scale event, then they may want to request if the budget is there. I typically try to, one, educate my clients on that as well too, and try not to use words like but or less or phrases like just as good, things of that nature, because that embeds this insecurity in their head that they are getting second grade of a cake baker, DJ, whatever vendor that we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
So because I know that we're small businesses, but we're not small business like you would you would consider like I don't know, a Raising Cane's or something like that. We're not that type of a small business, right? And so I think because I understand that, I try not to challenge my vendors too much on that. If they say like, hey, I don't have this date, or hey, I have this person instead, I will ask questions and just kind of like, okay, well, has he done this? Especially if it's a cultural wedding, then yes, I will ask more questions. Is this person familiar with South Asian weddings? Is this person familiar with Nigerian weddings? Or is this person familiar with Mexican weddings where Mexicans are from the Valley versus, somewhere else? Then yes, I will ask, because that affects the music, right? And highly affects how the event is going to go. But if they're able to answer those questions for me and maybe do like a sample when we do the meet and greet with a couple, usually they create a dynamic and, everything is fine. I think that's the biggest thing with companies. And I know I had it in my notes too, is that like we get so stuck in working in our business and creating this name for ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And this name for our brand, that we almost get stuck to where it's like, okay, well, I want to do something else, or I want to just go to dinner with my wife or my husband and kids, or just something simple like that. But I have to take this event because blase, blase. And so we have to start thinking of, what I had in my note, or what I called my exit strategy. Not necessarily, and it's a two-part fold to it of, exit as in leave the industry, so to say, but then also just I'm keeping my doors open. I'm keeping Elite Eventz open, but that exit strategy means I'm not going to be in the day-to-day in every single little task. I'm not going to be receiving emails when they come in, consultations, rehearsals, weddings, like bar mitzvahs. Like no, that's exhausting. That's a lot, So I had to figure out, okay, what does my exit strategy look like? And for me, that meant strongly grooming my team to where especially my associate planners, where they literally, like, I do not micromanage them. Whoever's their clients, that's their clients. I couldn't tell you anything about their clients except for the date. And maybe the venue, if they booked the venue before they actually booked with us. But I do not micromanage them at all whatsoever. I supply them the staff and the insurance. That's about it. And emergency kits. That's about it. So, and templates. But I want it to be to where I can have a Saturday off. I can leave the country, go on vacation, which is part of that recharging for yourself. And not worry about company, not worry about their event. And that's one of the biggest things about the exit strategy and about growing your brand, is having people, I don't want to say under you, but I guess under you is the phrase, but having people that work with you to help grow your brand.
I mean, I'll start with that. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there for sure. Yeah, I feel this. I feel a lot of what you're saying, especially as a younger and newer business owner who feels like they have to do everything themselves. And it's like, I have to edit the videos, and I have to go to all the events, and I have to be answering emails at the events that I'm doing right now to try to be able to field everything so I can like continue to grow. I totally understand. Like, It's so frustrating. But the biggest thing that's helped me, and I'll preach it until eternity, but it was for me, is teaching someone to edit in my style. I found what was my biggest time spend, which is in video world, is editing. It's so a lot of time. So I was editing for so long, and then this has to change. So I went and found someone who was like, dude, I will teach you how to edit. This is my style. This is what it looks like. And I was so scared because it's like you're giving up some of that control. It's like that's the biggest thing for a lot of business owners, I think, that we feel is the control, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
Yeah. And
it's so scary.
I was terrified. The first time I ever had someone do a video edit for me, I was terrified. And sending it out, I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. But the biggest thing, the greatest relief that I think I've ever felt in as a business owner was a couple coming back to me saying, Nick, we absolutely loved our video edit. Thank you so much. And I had someone else do that for me. I had one of my own staff or someone who works for me do that edit for me. It feels like you've unlocked like some sort of like secret. Like it's all, and I think that's to what you're saying, to your point, it's like, how do we get to that point where we don't feel like we have to do everything at a micro level, like you said, like in the trenches every single day, right? You can't grow.
Yeah,
I don't feel like you can grow.
If not, you're not gonna. Well, you're definitely not gonna grow because you're gonna burn out.
Right.
And
yes.
Whether for me, I feel like it's whether you have a chronic illness or not, but definitely if you have a chronic illness, you're going to burn out. So then when you burn out, then like your efficiency, your effectiveness is going to falter, and it is going to show. And so then what takes a toll is your, product or service, whatever it is that, you offer in the industry. And then what happens is you get bad reviews, bad rapport, becomes developed in the industry. And then you're done. The next thing, you might end up on the news, those people that end up for video. I can't even tell you how many video people that
I'm sure
the news here in Houston for backlogged with editing. Like you said, it's one of the most time consuming. And if you think that you can, like you said, do it all, oof. It's almost like you're setting yourself up for the demise.
Yeah, I like what you said about burnout too, because I think I honestly felt that a little bit myself. Like I had worked an event Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and here I am on what's today, Tuesday, and I'm sick. I got sick. Like I ran myself into the ground. Like like burnout, and you end up stagnating your potential because you're trying to do everything instead of focusing on just running, being the manager, the overseer, right?
Yes.
So
that's literally like with the boundaries for me. I don't care what it is. My office hours. So I don't know if y'all know the movie The 5 Heartbeats from back in the day with the singing group, but literally there's a scene where Big Red hangs this man over the edge of a balcony because he's not respecting his business hours. That's me. She, me, her. That is me all day long. I can literally be at my desk and I work through Friday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. You see how fast that rolled off my tongue, right? It can be 10:55 a.m. I can see you calling me on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
I can see you calling me, and I promise you I won't call. I won't answer. One, I won't answer the phone. And two, I will not call you back at 11 a.m. I'm going to respond to my voicemail. You're not going to run me. I'm going to respond back to my voicemails in the order in which they were received, starting from Saturday. I'm going to respond back. And I have a system that you get 2 hours to do emails. You get another hour to do voicemails and another hour to reply to text messages. On Tuesdays are imperative for me because I take Mondays off. And if you choose to call me on a Monday, because that's, Mondays is when everyone gets up and going and all that good stuff, that's fine because the phone was off anyway, or the volume was off anyway. That's completely fine. But what I will not do is change or bend or flex on my boundaries because then what happens is then now you're texting me every Monday at midnight because you just had an idea pop into your head. And then what happens is that I worked, a 3-day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday Indian wedding, and I am tired physically, mentally. I am drained. My body from Crohn's is tired. And now here you are on a Monday, and I'm literally like almost vegetative state, like in bed, and you're texting me. No, I'm not replying. No, sorry, not doing it.
Well, I think it's good to create those boundaries. And a wise person once told me that you teach people how to treat you, and I think it's good if you're able to establish those, those understandings, and you're able to, have. I like to use the term like respectable flexibility. Like, I for example, I understand a lot of my clients, they work a 9-to-5 job. So if I'm only available 9 to 5, that's not really going to be very, customer centric. I know, as Frank likes to say a lot, right? Like, it's not going to be, okay? So I've got to be a little bit flexible and stay, instead of being a 9 to 5, I'm going to be more of like an 11 to 7, like you mentioned. I'm going to be more of an 11 to 7 so that I do have some availability in the hours where it's realistic for them to call me, and I don't have to have a couple or a bride or a groom or a corporate client or whatever compromise themselves. Like, do I eat lunch today or do I call the DJ? like there shouldn't even have to be a question, right? Like, eat lunch and just call me when you get off work. Like, we're all good, right?
Yeah.
But I can understand, and like you said, I've been guilty of the opposite of what you're saying, where somebody will message me something and it'll just be a situation. I think all of our hands at some point can go up, where somebody messaged me something at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting there like watching TV or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not really doing anything, so let me just respond. And then the next thing you know, we're talking until midnight. And I'm like, this is just weird. First of all, this is a client. This is not like me talking to one of you guys. Like, this is a client. It's just weird. And then the next thing you know, they feel like they can do it all the time. And if you don't do it, then you have to double down, because now all of a sudden you feel like you're a jerk. So I think that's so smart that you said that. I think we could all learn to be a little bit better at that. Frank, I'm gonna let you tackle this question from Chris, and I may offer an answer too, but I'm curious your answer to this here.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it pop up, and I've been thinking about it as I turned my camera off because I heard my wife screaming, "Where's my daughter?" and they were playing a game, but I thought it really happened. So I was like, oh no. Yeah, so I think one of the scariest things for a DJ to give up when you're talking about like reaching out to clients is your voice, right? Because our voice as a DJ is a little different, because you're also the host of that event, right? So you're the voice of that event. You don't want to give that voice away. So I think when you think about like having somebody either kind of take care of the booking process for you, for DJs that choose to outsource the booking process, or for DJs who choose to outsource things like their commercials and their marketing material, is losing your own voice in that is really scary for me, because part of my business is my voice. And so I think that's probably been one of the hardest things for me to hand off, especially when you talk about having DJs that do other events for you. Sometimes, especially because of COVID, I took on some double bookings, assigned a couple of my assistants to kind of having that wedding themselves. And me knowing that my voice wasn't present at that event was scary and intimidating for me. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's the reason why if we can, this show is all about education, right? And I really think if we can help people that are in the early stages of their business that maybe don't have a team yet, or don't have a necessity for a team yet, I think if we can help them understand that, like, for example, that voice that you're referring to, that can be a brand voice if you create it to be. If you make it Frank's voice, it will always be Frank's voice. If you make it your brand's voice, it will always be your brand's voice. And that's something that can go into those SOPs. And that's something that can be taught and trained. And people, please understand, when I'm saying voice, I don't mean like what's coming out of our mouth. And I know, Frank, you don't mean that either. But you more so mean the message of how you deliver the service that you deliver. And I think if we understand that while a lot of us who provide a service, we are the business, if we understand that, but we also understand that we don't have to be this ultra unique, there's nobody like me kind of person. Like, we don't really have to be that. We have to be the best possible version of ourselves that we can be, and then attract the people who like what they see, and just keep attracting more of those people, and then find people to expand the best possible versions of themselves. Because think about that. That's really how you're able to scale something, is when you realize that you as an individual are only going to appeal to a certain share of the market. But then the minute you add somebody else who has all the same foundational principles that you have, but they have a personality that varies from yours, now all of a sudden that is a new percentage of the whole that you were never going to get anyways. Right? Like, that's to me, like, that's the magic of understanding the business side of this. Like, don't let your ego make you think anything otherwise. You were never going to get that in the first place. So why not expand by creating the opportunity to do so?
I gotta just say, David, you're dropping the heat tonight for real. So that's like this, like the fourth gem. I'm just saying, like, mic drop. I just wanted to circle back to what you said about, if I can even remember what you said. Oh my goodness. It was just a fantastic point about, it was something you said earlier was really fire. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up. But no, I forgot what it was. I don't remember what it was. Dang. But I was like, dude, and like kept talking, and it's fun. But no, I really think that personality, like you were talking about personality too as well. I actually had a conversation with another like friender of mine yesterday, and that was one thing that really stuck out, that we kind of both resonated with us, is talking about like our personality is like, it's like the unique defining factor. It's like, dude, people are gonna, when you can get past that stuff that David was talking about and your personality shines through, that's really what, honestly, like what separates you and your uniqueness and stuff. So stop worrying about the other stuff. I wish I learned that sooner, because I was like, because you try to give your clients everything instead of just being authentic to yourself. It's like David said, like, you don't have to be this crazy, like, unique, I'm shooting an 8K and I'm giving you the video in 3 days after the event, like all this crazy stuff that makes you like out of control. But like, dude, just yourself. Like, you don't have to be like out of control. You just have to be yourself and let that shine through.
Nick, I think I've said this to you a million times too. If you think about it, like, we are lucky to work in a wedding industry because we work with one of the easiest clients in the world to make happy, because they're already essentially going into the experience excited and happy about the event.
Yeah.
So like, it should be so easy for us if we let our ego get out of the way, and we realize that just be a human being, just connect with people, just be you.
And that's honestly all your couples want too, and all your clients want. I mean, that's really all they want, is like a genuine interaction with a real human being on their wedding day.
Hey, Adam, welcome back.
For sure. No, and it could.
I think. Oh, I was gonna say, I think when you're yourself as well too, it really does open you up to, especially for me as a planner, because my dynamic is so personal. With the clients, is that it can make the process smoother and easier, and it makes it can allow them as a client to trust you and your decisions even more than what they might have previously had done. I had a client before who had was in a car accident and had, major brain loss, had to learn to walk all over again. I mean, the whole 9 yards, right? And so most people, when they get to DJ and production meet, like the final DJ meeting, it's so easy for them because they already know what song they're walking down to, like, and it's easy. For her, it's hard because she couldn't remember. It was like the last 10 years was gone as far as, music and memory recollections go. And so for her, it was hard because she's thinking Backstreet Boys. And we're like, don't play them no more. That's not like the hot song right now. Like, I mean, I get it. I used to do little Backstreet Boys in sync too, but that's not what we're doing no more. So I think, and it was probably the first time, and I think I maybe was at year 8, maybe. But it was the first time that I actually did connect with a client on this level, because I saw that this bride in this meeting was literally having a meltdown, and not like, bratty meltdown. I mean, like, she literally was fighting, some things in her head because she did not feel adequate enough. And it was not a fun experience for her because she felt like, I should know the music that's out right now, or I should know, everyone likes John Legend, or I should know everyone, does this song. And I saw that it was becoming painful for her. And so I pulled her aside and we walked outside of the building, and I literally shared with her, and I said, like, hey, I didn't tell you this, even though I knew your story and I knew that you had to do all of this, but like, I'm actually more close to you and more similar to you than what you actually know. I was like, and so I pulled out my phone, showed her pictures of myself in the hospital bed on feeding tubes, literally told her I had to learn how to eat over again. I had to learn how to walk on my own. I had to learn how to use the restroom on my own. And now I'm running again. So yes, you need to go to your physical therapy so you can do your first dance with your husband to be, so you can dance with your dad. Don't let these things that are so small seem like these giant mountains. You are able to it. And I think that it was that moment of just transparency and being authentic and real with that client. I can't even tell you how many clients this bride has sent me over the years. Mm-hmm. It is insanity, the amount of clients. And like, we were cool. I mean, she loved me before. It was like, I mean, after that, it was literally like nothing anyone could say. She's like, what does Erica think? Oh, well, okay, Erica said that, then that's what we're doing. Like, it literally it made the process so much easier. And like I said, the amount of referrals that she sent me after, and I was not doing that for referrals, in that it indirectly helped me grow and gave me, more clients. But I was doing that simply because I saw that she was having a personal moment. And I knew that I was in a very unique position based off of my life experiences and living with Crohn's disease and having to go through everything that I'd been through, that I could help this particular bride in such a pivotal, oh Lord, moment. And so I think, there's so many different ways that you could look at the growth and the connection. And sometimes I think just being yourself wins in the end.
Well, yeah, that momentary vulnerability is you were placed in a position to make a decision. Do I become a little vulnerable here and kind of humanize this situation, or do I allow my ego to take over and let the professional me stay there? And I think it's awesome that you chose that moment of vulnerability and that opportunity to connect on a more than just transactional level with this client, nevertheless.
And ultimately, if I could just chime in real quick, what I would say is, just real quick, is I think clients in general nowadays, especially today, are looking for real and genuine and honest experiences with businesses, for sure.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah, I think that, like how you said, pride and ego, for sure. It was pride and ego. Like, well, if I tell her this, is this client going to use this against me? And like, if I'm ever late on sending an email, if I ever don't answer phone call, she'd be like, oh, it's because she's sick. She didn't have the capacity to do her job. And so that was that fear that I had built up for years. I did not tell or share with anyone in the industry outside of my team that I had Crohn's disease for the first 6 years that I was in business. And so, you know, for me, it was even a big moment, like beyond even like, do you be human or professional, or like, what do you do? Because it was like, well, I don't want, for me, it was, I never wanted people to be able to use my ailment, you know, or my diagnosis against me and tell me you cannot do your job or you can't perform your job because you have this, right? Because essentially that would be like a blockade, right? I did not want Crohn's disease to be the issue why Elite Eventz was not successful. And so that was a big moment for me to be open and share with her, for sure. And now I tell everybody, I don't care, just Google me. We're good. Look, we're good with the crows. We got your event. Everything's gonna be perfect. You're good. You're good.
And you know, it's one of those things, and I've said it on shows before. There's a lot of added value in just being your authentic self, right? Because what it does is it's less stressful because you don't have to think about how you were to this person and then how you were to that person and worried about staying this inconsistent version of yourself over here and this other version over here. So when you're trying to put it on for people just to meet them at them and not let them see you, it becomes a lot harder to do what it is that you do. So, and of course, when you're new in business, right? Any business, but especially in this industry, you try to put on for everybody. And it's going to take you some time to get to the point where you find yourself in this industry and you're confident in it. Because 10 years ago, that was not me. I would take any wedding, any event for any price, right? And act however they needed me to act. Oh yeah, I can do this. I can do that. Yeah, I can do it all. Right. And then you learn, okay, well, that's not really what I'm good at. This is my lane. I'm going to be Frank. I'm going to be Nick, be Erica, be David. And that's just what I'm going to be. And if you like me, cool. And guess what? If you don't, the next couple will. And if that couple doesn't, the next couple will. But I'll fill up my calendar confident in myself and my abilities. And so just be you and take what you get. And trust me, your business will flourish more that way than it will when you were trying to do everything.
Frank, preach 100%, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's
I had to match David and Erica.
Good night, everyone.
No. You know what? I think
it, Frank. You did it, then.
I think a lot of times
the
conversation or the topic of burnout comes out a lot in our industry, and you know, people say, "Oh, this industry burns me out. These events are burning me out." And I just want to challenge everybody for a minute to say, the reality is you're burning yourself out. And usually the reason why you're burning yourself out is because you're not educating yourself well enough to understand the worth and value on a long-term basis of what it really takes to be successful, let alone in any industry, but especially in this industry where there is so minimal like accountability and there's such a minimal, the barrier of entry is so low, and the measure of the difference between you and anybody else who does what you do from an outsider looking in. I'm not talking about people in the industry who know better, but from on the outsider looking in, the ability for them to truly measure the differences between you are so minimal that it is so imperative that you understand why you don't do things like you said, Frank, where you don't just take any event and you don't just take any amount of money and you don't just do anything, because what happens, and especially if you're doing an event that has post work. So now let's talk about like Nick and a photographer and a videographer and stuff like that. You take these weddings that I'm going to just work all these weddings, and then all of a sudden you've got like 20 weddings stacked up of editing that you need to do, and you realize you haven't even charged any money for that time. Like the only
100%.
time you charged money for was when you were on site. And then God forbid, if you have to hire somebody to help you get caught up with all that editing, now you've really put yourself in a bad position. Now you've really put yourself in a place to where you are going to experience what people deem burnout. But it's not burnout, it's lack of preparedness. It's lack of understanding what you really should be doing to operate and function like a true business.
And I learned that the hard way. I think we
all have to some extent. We all have.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about this industry,
no, I
right?
definitely my notes recharge. Go ahead. Sorry, Frank.
No, you're fine. You're up. I can go after. You're good.
Oh no, I just was saying I had in my notes, one of the best things as far as solutions, one of the best things that you could do is recharge to grow your business. Set those boundaries of not accepting every client at every price on every holiday weekend and all that stuff. And things that are just not even in your scope, like, oh yeah, I'm a planner, but I can also bake your cake too. Like, no, you don't want me to bake your cake. Just, you don't have to take everything. You don't have to answer every phone call. You don't have to put on face. Frank, when you said that, I literally could have like threw my water through at the computer screen or something. But I called it, you said put on, and I call it put on face. And I literally tell myself mentally, okay, Erica, and I can literally, I did it before this call. Like, I'm sick today, like super sick. And literally right at 5:25, I said, okay, Erica, put on face. Literally. But you don't always have to do that at the expense of yourself, because then what happens is that, like we said, you lose your passion, you burn out, or whatever phrase you want to use for it. It affects your productivity. It definitely, weakens your growth. It does not help you grow at all whatsoever. So you have to figure out a way to set these boundaries and recharge. What are you going to do to recharge? Recharge your team, and what that looks like, and their momentum and the culture. Recharging yourself, vacation. I think all of that plays into it. All of that is going to make for you to be more efficient, make for you to be, more effective in ultimately, grow in the end. And definitely plan for your future and plan that extra strategy.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck.
Amen to both of those things. Yeah, I was just gonna say that, the big thing is that nobody, and we've said this on countless numbers of other shows, nobody came into this industry as a business professional. We came into this industry in the lane that we love. Erica, planning, coordinating. I don't know if I'm not sure if you do designing as well, but I feel like that was in there too.
Yes.
Right? David and me,
yes.
Playing music, DJing, being on a microphone. Nick, videography. Everyone else that we've ever had on this show doing exactly what it is that they do. We're not coming in here with a master's in business. You know what I mean? And so you're going to take some time to learn these things. Oh, did you come in here with a master's in business?
Yeah, she did. You didn't listen to that bio?
No, I heard that, but I guess I didn't know it. I guess I missed that she had that prior to entering the industry.
Yeah, she did.
Well, you go, because so most of us don't come into this industry.
No.
That's right. Yeah, most of us don't come in with that. And so part of it is, you are going to have some trial and error possibly. You are going to hit up a couple of courses online, or you're going to, piggyback in with another vendor professional in your lane that's going to teach you, they're going to spend some time teaching you the day of the process that you're going to go through and what you're going to offer the person. But then they're also possibly going to talk to you about, well, what are you charging? How do you spend that money? What portion of it goes on your business? What portion goes to you as a salary or as income? What does this part of your business look like? All the things that are on the backside that the clients don't see, that we're all using, CRMs and social media managers. And I mean, there's lists and lists of things that you can use to help yourself become a better business. So when you enter the business, don't give yourself grace while you're doing some of those things, because everyone comes in with some of those things, or most of us come in with some of those things, so give yourself time to adjust and to learn, but then also know that you do need to have those goals, and you do need to have those targets in 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. I'm going to start doing X to help myself, and maybe that's outsourcing social media, right? Or maybe you're going to spend the next year learning how to do it, and you're going to do it yourself, and you're going to outsource something else. You got to give yourself that grace while you build, and then you got to be ready to hit while it's hot and make life easier on yourself and outsource the things that you need to outsource.
I think the only caveat I would want to put on that giving yourself grace comment, which I think that's very prolific. I think it's a great thing to say, but I think in addition to giving yourself grace through that growth, you also have to be willing to be respectful to the industry and be respectful to the people who have already done that. Because there's nothing worse than, let's be honest, what is the number one thing probably we despise having somebody tell us, which is, I just talked to XYZ and they said they can do all of the same thing you can do for half the price. Well, number one, we know they can't. Number two, truthfully, they probably know they can't either. But sadly, number three, the client doesn't really know that. And so that's who loses in the real end of all of this, right? So I totally agree with your giving yourself grace and allowing yourself to learn. But that means that you also have to have some humility to be able to say, maybe I don't need to go out there and market myself in the same realm as an Eric or Christine and an Elite Eventz planning company. Maybe I need to market myself as I'm new, I'm learning, I'm fresh in the industry. Maybe you create a scenario where you could intern with, or you could subcontract with an Elite Eventz and learn from somebody who's already having a proven track record. In all reality, I would rather train my competition to do it right than let them try to figure it out on their own, because I know they're not going to. The best advice I feel like I've ever been able to give anybody that comes into this industry is, for every hour that you spend on your craft, so if you're a DJ, that's mixing and playing music. If you're a photographer, that's taking pictures. For every hour that you spend on your craft, spend an equal hour learning about the business of running your company. Equal amount of time.
Mm-hmm. That's
big.
That's good.
Nick made it back. Welcome back, Nick.
Oh, you made it back. Hey, Nick.
Hi. Nothing like
Frank touched on that. I did like as well, was like that planning out piece. For me, it was like, hey, Erica, you got Crohn's disease, girl. You can't do this. Like, you can't keep doing these 18-hour days in high heels on Italian marble floors at these venues. Like, can you really see yourself doing this at 50 years old? And you started at 23. Like, can you honestly say that your body has the physical capacity to do this, and you have Crohn's disease? Like, is that really going to happen? So for me, I say, even if I can physically do it, I don't want to do it. So that took for me to say, okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an educational component to the company, to the brand. I'm going to add a travel component, and I'm going to add an interior design component. And there's going to be a rollout, and it's not going to be like, boom, everything's at once. But it was like, for year 10, you will have an education platform out. And so while people saw it advertised at year 9.5, I started working on developing textbook, which might be in here. It's like 100 and something pages long. But I started writing the textbook in year 7 for something that I knew that I wanted to roll out for year 10. So you have to sit and plan, like, this is how I'm going to grow. I cannot remain stagnant and weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend. Now, for some people that might work. for me and my body and the little Crohn's disease that I got, it's not gonna work. So I had to decide, okay, what does this look like? This looks like you onboarding, bringing in some associate planners to take on those weekend after weekend after weekends. They become the new faces of the brand, of, you know, the event planning. You then can now work on developing this curriculum for the education component of your company. Now you can work on that settled. Then year 10, year 11 max, you're gonna roll out this travel component. By year 13, you better have this interior design in the bag. And so that was my quote unquote, what I call my exit strategy. I'm not closing the doors. No. I worked too hard to get Elite Eventz names on some of these preferred venue lists, right? So I'm not closing the doors. I'm not stopping events. I will still do, certain events for sure, certain level events, but I have to do what's going to be right for my body so I don't physically become ill and burnt out. And so that way I can keep up with the brand and what I've set of these, bubbly girls that come with, face beat for the gods and hair and makeup and a dress and heels. But then we're sitting here like doing it all and making things happen. Like that's this brand that I've created. But honestly, at 50 years old, I don't know if I could have made that happen. And so sometimes I think with planning for your growth, you have to kind of take a step back and realize where there's an opportunity for you, an opportunity for either, like where there's either a weakness or an opportunity for you to bring someone else in, change something up, whatever it is. It just depends on, what your actual connection to the event industry is. But I really thought that was big of what you were saying, Frank, for new beginners. But I also wanted to speak even for people that are in the industry to also think of growing past, once you have your name for yourself, then what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, as funny as it sounds, the three of us together, we've really been talking about it, is kind of like, what's next? What else can we do? There's so many different avenues to help this industry thrive. And it's not always just helping yourself, right? Sometimes it can be helping others through so many different things that are out there and different ways of delivering that help and that knowledge to people. And so, I think it's smart. It's just smart business in general to have those plans in place, even if you weren't in the wedding industry, regardless of what industry you're in, But I think in the wedding industry, the really important piece of it is that, I say right now, I've been DJing for 10 years. I feel like I can do another 15, 20, but you never know when that changes. Just like you said, Erica, you just never know when that moment changes where you just can't, maybe you can't anymore, or maybe you can, but you choose not to. And so having that plan in place with that exit strategy to allow the company Elite Eventz or Primetime Event Group or Y Entertainment, or NOS Visuals, right? Regardless, having that solution, right, is the key, and keeping that in mind along the whole way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how you get longevity. Like that's how you keep sustainability and keep your company going. Is from planning for sure.
Yeah, planning's important. Planning even now, even me as a younger person, in the industry, only being in for about 2 years now, it's still looking down the road at your 10, 15, 20, 30-year plan. You have to think like, where do I want to be at 40? And it starts now. And it's hard. I mean, it's really difficult to plan, especially when tomorrow is not even guaranteed. But it's important for for your longevity and for your peace of mind as well. To make casual and slow and progressive steps towards that, for sure.
Well, and understanding that if it's just one of those things, you just even think about the basic structure of, if you don't have a plan and if you don't have, you can call it a goal, you can call it a business plan, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But if you don't have that in place, then you have no beacon to navigate towards. So you never really know where you are on your journey in the first place. The worst thing you can do is, assume that you're going to make enough money to get to where you want to get to at the end of the year, right? Like, just because we're coming off COVID and everything, everything's getting back to busy and all that stuff, that still doesn't mean necessarily, if you haven't really taken the time to really plan out and be able to identify where exactly you are at June, whatever today is, June 8th, 2021, where are you in your financial needs for this year? Because a lot of people might be way behind the 8 ball because the first part of this year has not worked out the way we would hoped it would. And last year, sure as shit, didn't work out the way we hoped it would. If you think back to 2019, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and I was talking about how if you were to ask any small business owner in 2019 what they thought their business was going to be like in 2020 or in 2020 and 2021, boy, we were all planning on moving to Fiji. We were all planning on driving, Bugattis. Like, we were all like, it's on and popping, right? You ain't stopping us. We're like Floyd Mayweather in this thing, right? And then we got knocked the hell out by Floyd Mayweather called COVID, right? And so here we are now getting back into things, and we've got to be aware of where we're going so we know whether we can even get there or not. It's like having your car have a fuel gauge that doesn't work. You don't want that to happen in your business.
Dude, 100%, 100%. I mean, you have to plan, you have to prepare. So, I mean, and that goes for me as even like having like an emergency fund and that kind of stuff. I mean, like, you have to kind of be like, as a business owner, especially when, like you said, like, tomorrow's not guaranteed. Like, what does that look like? But year, 5 year, do I have enough money, in case something happens, right?
Yeah, because even if you don't have a situation where which tonight we've been talking about, the struggles and challenges of having a chronic illness and things like that. But even if you don't have that, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have something that's going to knock you off your scope of direction at any point in time. And
right.
So you've got to be prepared. You've got to be vitally prepared, because the other part of this industry that we could probably have another hour-long conversation about, but we won't tonight, but we could, is about how many people in our industry don't have health insurance. Okay. And imagine if one of these catastrophic health things happen to you and you don't have health insurance. Now what are you going to do?
Right.
I'm telling you, I could go on a whole rant about that and how I feel like it should be. Yeah, I really want to advocate for something to change in our industry in that regard. But anyways, it's important to be prepared is the bottom line in all of this.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, throw up that comment. I don't know who Facebook user is, but throw up the comment.
Yeah.
There it is.
There you go.
Love me, Erica.
Facebook user said they love me some you.
I love you too, my baby.
Yeah,
I don't even know who it is, but hey.
So yeah, sometimes we get our Facebook user. This is so that happens if you don't go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give them permission to show us your name and likeness, then we won't know who it is.
It's Fausto. What's up, Fausto?
Fausto checking in with us.
Tuning in.
Oh my goodness. I love my Fausto. Oh my goodness. Hi.
Yeah, Fausto
is the man.
Good.
You want to talk about somebody who does not?
He is a man with the plan.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
With the plan, for real.
I was going to say, you want to talk about somebody who doesn't mince words.
Yeah, I think Fausto. I think Fausto
elegant.
needs to get scheduled on here in the future. We need to have Fausto on an episode in the future.
I keep like subtly trying to get him to do it, and so now I'm just going to officially say, Fausto, we need you and we want you on our show. So please. Yeah, And Fausto was
Where
saying,
is
you're
that?
spot on about the industry not having enough insurance coverage for all of us that work.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely. Done.
Yeah.
There you go.
He said done. He's committed.
Done.
Let's go.
I'm gonna throw a
Done.
date out. You know what? I'm gonna throw a date out right now. I'm gonna throw a date out right now, live on the air. I'm throwing a date out
Oh,
right
look
now.
at David. He's
Uh-oh.
like, look, we're not letting this one.
June. Hey, June 29th. And Fausto, you can do me a birthday favor by saying yes to June 29th. Full disclosure, my birthday is the day before, June 28th, but I would love to have Fausto on the show on the 29th, if you can make it work on your schedule.
Oh, let's see.
Right.
Let's see.
He
No
doesn't have
pressure,
to-
but we are waiting for the response.
He doesn't have to answer tonight if he can, but that's okay. That's okay.
Oh, he can
says
do
it.
that date.
Yes.
There it is.
It's
Let's
on.
go.
It's on. Put it on your schedule, Fausto. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You are all hours on the 29th of June.
Oh, I'm excited. That's going to be fun.
Nice. Well, Erica, thank you so much for
love
joining us tonight. I know we've gone almost a half hour over, and it's so funny. We always tell all of our guests that we're only asking an hour out of them, but I tell you, the time just flies by, and when it's a great conversation, it doesn't even feel like it's gone by that quickly. So thank you for being a part of the conversation today, and thank you for being vulnerable to share what your experience has been with Crohn's disease, but not only that experience, but your strength to continue to keep pushing forward and showing people that you can build a responsible, viable business, even with having to deal with that challenge that will probably never leave your life necessarily, but you haven't allowed it to be something to defeat you. You've had it be something that has motivated and encouraged you. So I love that so much.
Yes, definitely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I did not get to share it with you before. For my course, the education piece that I mentioned earlier, it's called the Elite Collective. If you go to my website, eliteeventz.com, you will see a link that says education or planners education. You can click on it. It has all the details for anyone that has watched night's podcast. I just wanted to actually offer you guys $250 off of the program. It's a 7-week course. It is a very, very detailed, and like I said, it took me 3 years to write the textbook. The textbook 100 and I think I'm at 110 pages. And every time I course, I add more pages to it, which is why the course is now 7 weeks. So, but if you are interested in that and loved anything that I said, a lot of the things I talked about, especially for business, and as we joked with Frank about, yes, I do have a master's degree in business, and so yes, a lot of the things that I learned in business school, I apply in my business and try to teach people for a lot less money, and just teach people so they don't have to go through the things, like I said, that I've gone through, or things that are just unnecessary to go through. So, each one teach one. We're here to make the industry forward, is my belief. And so, yeah, I have no issues educating my quote unquote competition at all. So thank you, gentlemen, Nick, Frank, David, so much for having me. It has been a great time. I've had an amazing time. And I'm so excited because I did not use the restroom, not one time.
Look at
this
there.
whole 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Look at there.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for posting that. That's the link right there, eliteeventz.com/collective-course. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. There you go. And thank you so much for offering that discount to our viewers. And I'm just kind of looking over the course right now. And this, I'm telling y'all, this is some action-packed business fundamentals 101, business fundamentals 201, essentially planning fundamentals, design fundamentals, diversification fundamentals. This is powerful. You put a really nice program together, Erica. So definitely check this out. Education is so important. I love this so much.
You want to learn how to do high end and get out of the 25,000 realm. You want to learn how to do South Asian, Nigerian, Jewish, learn all of those dynamics. Definitely destination, all of it. Reach out to me, and I will teach you all about SOPs because that is my thing.
There you go. Frank, Nick, anything else before we get out of here, fellas?
No, this was a great episode.
It was fun. Great conversation, and thank you so much for your time.
Love it. All right. Well, we are going to sign off out of here. Erica, if you can hang out for just a minute and behind stage with us before we get out of here, we're going to go ahead and sign off the live version of the night tonight. Thank you all for joining us once again. Just want to remind everybody that all of our episodes are available not only on replay on YouTube, but you can also listen to them in podcast form on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other method by which you listen to your podcast. Just search Wedding Business Growth, and all of the past episodes are available for you to listen to on your runs, on your drives, as you're heading to and from events, or however you want to listen to it. It's available to you. With that being said, thank you so much. We will see you all next week again, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a wonderful week, everybody.